We'll bring you that shortly. But there has been no actual announcement yet from the Premier League or from Nottingham Forest to confirm their fate. But we have an understanding of what it is, which is why Alex Crook joins us now, Chief Football Correspondent. Good afternoon, Alex.
Yeah, good afternoon. I think it's been a busy day so far, both at the City Ground and at Premier League HQ as well. We were told yesterday from a fairly reliable source that Forest were expecting to hear the outcome of their profit and sustainability charge in terms of what the penalty would be today. Nothing official as yet. At one stage, I thought we might hear officially by now, but we're still waiting for that Premier League statement and indeed a response from Nottingham Forest. But I am told, I understand it will be 4 points that Forest are deducted, and that would drop them into the relegation places. They would be a point beneath Luton Town. And I guess the interesting element now is if Forest appeal that penalty or not. I think the Premier League would be keen for this not to drag on too much longer, because, of course, the nearer it gets to the end of the season, the bigger the danger is that actually we could be in a situation where we get to the final round of fixtures, we get to full time in those fixtures, and we still don't know if there's an ongoing appeal process, which teams fill the bottom three places. I think for English football, for the Premier League, and for all the clubs involved, I think that would be a disaster.
We know all circumstances in all of these cases are different, Alex. But, just at the moment you think 6 is the tariff on appeal, as we saw with Everton, then we come up with 4. Maybe
you don't mean
4.
they're making it up as they go along?
Yeah, well, maybe. Maybe 4 is now the tariff, or if on appeal it goes down to 3, maybe that will be. Because, look, I mean, as I said, they're all very kind of circumstances specific, these cases. But still, we don't quite know how it works, do we?
No, we don't. And obviously we know that the Premier League clubs are looking to redraft those profit and sustainability rules maybe for as soon as the start of next season. I think they are a little bit archaic, even when you look at the figure that Premier League clubs are permitted to lose over the course of a 3-year period. It's £105 million. It's been that way for the best part of a decade. And obviously the football landscape has changed. Players' wages have gone up. We've got clubs now who have arguably far wealthier owners than there were 10 years ago. So I think it does need looking at. But one of the big things is that it can't drag on as long as it has. I think the lack of clarity from the Premier League is something that needs sorted, because ultimately it's the Forest fans who've been refreshing their phones all day today and probably for the past few weeks waiting for this judgment. They're the ones who suffer. I remember speaking to you guys when Everton partially appealed their points deduction, and you asked me then, is this going to be standard now, 6 points if you're found guilty of any financial breach? And I said no at the time, because it was going to be assessed on a case-by-case basis. And this Forest one is particularly complicated because the 3-year period that they've been found to be in breach of, 2 of those years they were a championship club, and obviously the financial rules in the championship are different. You're allowed to lose only £61 million over a 3-year period in this case for Forest. So it is complicated. And we know that Forest, if they do launch an appeal, it will centre around the sale of Brennan Johnson last summer. They've claimed all along that they could have sold Brennan Johnson to Brentford much earlier in the transfer window for a reduced fee. They held out to get that improved offer from Spurs, and that was what caused them to breach the financial regulations, because they effectively went into a new period of accountancy. So it is very complicated. But I think a lot of people are fed up of talking about finances, when actually we should be talking this afternoon about what a brilliant weekend it was in the FA Cup, what a great battle we got for the Premier League title, the Champions League, and indeed those relegation places. And I think no football fan really wants such matters to be decided in court, effectively.
You have some sympathy for Forest in that, 17 million is a lot of money, and I say it must really annoy Daniel Levy when he hears that he could have been 30 million a couple of months before. But rules are rules, and there's been plenty of situations where clubs have maybe had to sell players.
They voted for the rules, but I'm glad they're redrafting them, and that will bring its own problems, because if they redraft it and make it more money, then the teams that have been deducted points will say, well, hang on, you've just changed the rules, so they couldn't have been right when we would do it. It's a minefield, isn't it?
And the thing is, for every Forest situation where they did hold out and get more money and went into another accounting period and are going to be penalised for it now, there were other clubs who said, we're just going to have to take a hit on this. We're going to have to sell now. We don't want to, but we'll fall foul of the rules and we'll pay for it down the line.
But that's not good business. That's not right. You shouldn't have to undersell a player.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's good business.
I'm not saying you are. I'm saying that these rules need redrafting. They're not right.
But if there is a cut-off point and other teams have had to adhere to that and they've suffered the consequences and they have lost out on money on a player that they could have got more in 2 months' time, then, Forest are going to have to live with that.
Yeah, I think it's a really difficult one. I absolutely understand where you're coming from, Paul. And I think if you're looking for the shining example of that, Wolverhampton Wanderers were in all kinds of trouble at one stage, and they had to sell off quite a few of their best players, of course, in the summer. That's why they ended up without a manager, because Julian Lopetegui didn't believe the squad was fit enough to compete at the top end of the Premier League. He's been proven wrong by Gary O'Neill, but they balanced their books accordingly. And for everybody who's got sympathy with Forest over Brennan Johnson, again, I see where Andy's coming from, because you want maximum value for your assets. So if you have to hold out until towards the end of the window, actually, they would argue that is within the spirit of the profit and sustainability rules. But then you look at the sheer number of players that Forest have signed since they became a Premier League club, and you ask the question to Mr. Marinakis, the owner, well, could you not have just signed 5 or 6 fewer players and maybe you wouldn't be in this situation?
Well, true. We await the official word, and I suppose we'll find out a little bit more about the judgment, won't we? We'll find out exactly what the circumstances are, and we can sort of pore over a little bit more. All we've got is this understanding that it's going to be 4 points, but we don't know the specifics as yet, do we?
No, we don't. And we don't know for definite if Forest will appeal or not. I would imagine that they are preparing their response to the charge. And as soon as we get official confirmation, either from them or the Premier League, obviously I'll jump back on. But as I say, we're expecting it will be a 4-point penalty. So Nottingham Forest dropping into the bottom 3. Good news for Luton and even the likes of Brentford, who are looking nervously over their shoulders.
Yeah. Good stuff. Thanks, Alex. Thanks very much.
Cheers, guys.
It's Alex Crook, our chief football correspondent. I remember we used to find back in the old days of sort of player appeals, they used to have the frivolous appeal, didn't they? I wonder if they'll look at that when they used to up the amount of weeks ban or fine, or in this case points, if they see it as that would be a pretty dangerous thing to do. I think everybody should have the right to appeal, I guess. But anyway, as it stands, as we await official confirmation from the Premier League and Nottingham Forest, we understand that they've been deducted 4 points for those financial breaches. More on that a little bit later on. We'll get Stan Collimore's thoughts, a man who pops back to Forest, his old club, now and again. We'll see what he's made of it all. We'll get a Forest fan's reaction as well. Max Scott bringing us the news today as a big Forest fan. So we'd like to hear from you once it's confirmed, because we don't know quite what we're dealing with at the moment. But as soon as we do, love to hear from you at talksport.com, text to 81089, tweet to TSH&J, and call us on 03717 223344.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.